Here are two Lakewood box fans. These are both somewhat odd models. The one on the left is a very early brace blade model, and the one on the right is a very late third generation model. These are both abysmally thin. In fact, it's so bad it's only a hair thicker than the modern 3733 box VN, and these both are about the same thickness. These are pretty much the same cabinet as far as I can tell. The only difference to these being the motor, whereas this one on the right here still uses the conventional Macmillan motor design. But was that a 3/8 shaft? Yeah, actually it is. Huh. That's a 3/8 shaft, whereas I believe the old ones were either 1/2 inch or 5/8. That's strange. I never noticed that before. The old one is definitely, like a second generation, for instance, is definitely larger shaft. And then the one on the left here is this newer style Macmillan motor. It does still have the oil ports. Both of these have the oil ports. And of course nobody oiled them, and they still both work just fine. So this one, I don't believe the model number is clear on either one of these. I think, oh, here we go. There are informations here. I will find out what the model numbers are and post it in the video box. I believe Tori has told me what the models are in these things. Let me try to take a look at the informations on the tag, motor tag as well. Just very quick here. This video is more meant to be a comparison than a showing of these two individually. Well, there's the date code, August of '97. It's kind of funny how these, both the Lakewood and the Lasco box fans, kind of got progressively cheaper at or around the same time. And it seemed like the last really good Lasco box fans were in the real early 2000s, and the same can be said about the Lakewoods. I guess it kind of makes sense considering they were competitive products in a way. Here's the information on this one, and again I'll post the actual model numbers of these things as Tori told it to me in the description box. See if this one has a date on it or not. Let's see if this will focus. There we go. It doesn't look like it does. So I'm not sure exactly what the date on this would be. Definitely, it's got to be at least mid or early 90s, I would think. I believe the 80s models would have still had the thicker cabinet. I don't see a date information on the bottom. This one's rated at 2.1 amps, whereas the old ones are rated at 2.7. Although there was always a discrepancy, because the motor information tag, I'm looking at an old second generation 223. The motor tag, I believe, says 2.4, and the cage itself says 2.7. So this is saying 2.1, so it's only a slightly less powerful motor. And then this one, the motor says 2.1, and the case says 2.1 as well. So let's see how these perform in comparison to each other. The brace blade Lakewood box fan seems to be the most hated box fan among collectors, and I really don't understand why, because I just don't think it's called for. I recently heard somebody say that the brace blades don't warp. I'm not sure that's correct. This one, although not detrimentally, definitely looks to me like it's warping. Looks to me like the tip of it's kind of pushed back more than it should be, and I wonder if this one is going to perform significantly less than it should because of that. It's still a very powerful fan as it is, but I don't think it's 100%. Alright, let's start with the older unit. I got the kilowatt meter going here. Looking at 117.5 volts. The voltage is a little low. Everybody's got the air conditioners on again. It's very wet tonight. We'll zoom this in. And we'll start it up on the low. And this fan is obnoxiously thin. The guard comes within 1/16 of an inch of the blade set or less. I mean, it's, oh, actually much less, not even a 1/16 of an inch. It clears by the thickness of a couple pieces of paper. It is just abysmal. Look at that. Wow. There's not even a 32nd of an inch there. There's nothing, no clearance whatsoever. This is what I would consider to be, and what I think a lot of other collectors would agree as well. This is as cheap as the box fans ever should have gotten. This is still a decent quality fan, still moves good air, it's still built well, it's still pretty reliable. But it does have the cheaper characteristics of the ones we have today. I happen to really like this fan. I think the performance is really good. It's very nice and quiet, slow, low, decent airflow. 0.65 amps, 54 watts, the power factor of 0.7, which of course is going to be low because it's a shaded pole motor. Okay, now we'll go up to the medium, which will be a pretty big jump in power. I noticed that these third generation models tend to spread the air out pretty good. The air kind of moves towards the sides of the fan more so than straight out, which, depending on the application, could be of significant advantage. Still pretty quiet. Pretty strong airflow. It's not crazy, but it's decent. Pretty good balance. Yeah, it's in balance. Power is 1.02 amps. 88 watts, the power factor of 0.73. Right now we'll go high. Hopefully it doesn't tip over. Let's see. Oh, actually it's nowhere near ready to tip over. That's 1.95 amps, so it's right around what it's rated for. 168 watts with a power factor of 0.74, which is about as good as shaded pole motors ever gets. And at full power, this is throwing a lot of air. I'm not sure it's quite as strong as the old second generation models, but it's definitely moving some good air. And it's fairly quiet too. They definitely weren't quite as strong as the second generation models, but for the size, the thinness, and the lightweight, yeah, it's not bad. Certainly does better than the 3733 does, at least one we have now. Alright, now we'll move on to the infamous brace blade box fan. Oh dear. The high side of this plug is becoming very rusty. Not good, we'll have to get that cleaned off. Okay. Start it up on low. Just like the other one, we have a nice, very slow, quiet low. And this one moves air much, much differently than the other one does. This pushes a lot of air out straight out of the fan, and it seems to carry better pretty much at the edge of the room here, and I can still feel a pretty significant breeze. And it's pretty much inaudible. This is super quiet. Power draw is 0.64 amps, 54 of the watts with a power factor of 0.71. Now this is very powerful. Okay, the medium. The guard's a little rattly, I'm not sure why it's like that. The balance is pretty reasonable. I don't feel it shaking much at all. I don't know why it's like that, but if I recall correctly, the high speed was a big jump up from the medium to low. Airflow is same commentary. It's very much straight out in front of the fan, and to me, this actually feels like it's moving more air than the other one. Okay, now we'll go into the uncharted territory of high speed. And there was a big jump up, and this is ready to tip over. Just barely staying. See? Not good. 1.96 amps, 174 watts, and a power factor of 0.76. Interesting, a little more than the other one. Yeah, this is really ready to tip over. And this is exceptionally powerful. Definitely much more powerful than the third generation to the right. And it's not as powerful as I remember, though. I'm slightly disappointed by this. The Lasco ones definitely much better, like the early Weather Shield model. Definitely moves more air than this. But this is a very strong fan. It's very powerful, but it's not quite as good as the Lakewood ones. The air travels reasonably well. You can feel a pretty strong breeze all the way across the room. But I'm just not super impressed. I'm not super impressed with either one of these after testing that early 2000s Weather Shield model from the Lasco. Alright, well now let's turn these on both at the same time and see how they operate in comparison to one another. Okay, let's start off on the low speeds. This is definitely slightly out of balance if you just see it go back. Not good. Alright, so now, here we go. Noise level I hear more wind noise from the one on the right, and I hear more motor noise from the one on the left. In terms of airflow, it's kind of hard to tell. I'm going to angle these away from each other a bit. This one is stronger, but the way it moves the air is very different. This one you kind of have to stand out to the side to feel the air, but this one is definitely stronger on low. Although it's kind of only at like right down here it throws out a lot of air. But everywhere else it's not that impressive, so it's kind of weird. They're not that different. Alright, the one on the right is definitely taken over in terms of noise. You know, oddly enough, I think that the brace blade moves a higher volume of air. Meanwhile, the one on the right has a better velocity, because I notice this on low too. It feels like there's a greater volume of air coming out of the fan, but it's slow. Whereas this one, the air it's pushing is fast, but it doesn't seem like it pushes as much. This one definitely has a better range and speeds. The sound is pretty much the same level for the two on high. The sound of the brace blade is more annoying to me, whereas the one on the right is a pretty steady, constant sound, pretty easy to ignore. So in terms of the airflow, kind of the same thing again. I get stronger gusts out of this one, but it's only out of like this bottom corner. It's really weird, I don't know why it's like that. Whereas standing in front of this one, although I think the air comes out a little bit slower, it feels like it's moving a lot more air. It might have a little bit of an edge over it. Not by a ton, but a little bit.